crazy stuff, Shaun. You know, I was camping out in the Amazon jungle with the local indigenous people and fishing for piranhas. Right? Then I come back, and I go back to university in Plymouth, and this is action. This is what happens if you believe in yourself, you take action, then you learn to start visualizing. So as a kid, I wanted to climb Everest. I grew up with Chris Bonington and all that stuff. So I said, do you know what? I'll put it on the back burner because I'm only 7, probably, wouldn't be able to carry the backpack. But do you know what? I'm never going to say no, Shaun. Never going to say no. And by me, off the back of coming out of addiction, by taking that action, it means now that I'm booked up to climb Everest next year, that I live in paradise every day, even when it's challenging, Shaun. That's okay, and I'm surrounded by beautiful people like yourself and your wonderful audience and mine. So where's the military talking about this stuff? They're not, are they? What they're doing instead, it's not the military, it's the cabal, it's the dark network, Shaun. They're bringing out films like Rambo. They're bringing out films like Platoon. Why? Well, after Vietnam, where thousands upon thousands of innocent and naive young American men were slaughtered, along with millions of totally innocent Vietnamese, rice farmers, Shaun, they didn't give a shit. They're earning like 50 cents a year, selling a bit of rice and then keeping the rest of it to feed their families. They give a shit whether they live under communism or capitalism or fucking whatever. Of course they didn't. They was the innocent, done nothing. But cabal got in there. They wanted the mineral rights, the oil rights, they don't want Ho Chi Minh pushing down from the north. So they fabricated Gulf of Tonkin, didn't they? And on under the guise of which they invaded, right? That kicked off such a movement of peace in America that the universities were demonstrating. Washington was filled up with I don't know how many millions of people, but they wanted peace, Shaun. It kicked off a massive peace movement. Well, the New World Order can't have a peace movement because there's anyone who hasn't been asleep for the last 20 years will have realized they got their illegal conflicts that they need to fulfill and their criteria and their markers to hit. They can't have a bunch of very lovely hippies going, fuck that. Let's all fucking hug each other and, let's deal with our childhood trauma and learn that the teenagers that we're sending teenagers to massacre, they're actually all right, whether they be Russian, Ukrainian, British, even the Welsh, Shaun, they're all right as well, It's fucking amazing. So I got myself in trouble then, didn't I? That's my nan's sense of humor. No. So what do they do, Shaun? They brought out these films, didn't they? They brought out Rambo were the first one. And the story of Rambo is you don't have to get involved in the politics of the war or the rights and wrongs of it, but you have to support the soldier at all costs because this guy's damaged and he's damaged believing he was fighting for you. Very clever narrative, Brought out Platoon, again, the same thing. Didn't deal with the utter atrocity of the war and the massacre. It focused on the soldier's journey, and off the back of it, they instigated a culture of thank you for your service, sir. I tell you, to anyone out there, all our beautiful friends out there, please don't ever say that to a veteran. It's just so piss. You wouldn't like what the military thinks of you if you're a civilian. They're actually indoctrinated in a lot of cases to feel far superior than civilians. It's not their fault. It's the whole indoctrination machine that the military runs on in order to send teenagers off to kill other teenagers. There has to be a form of almost mind control behind it, right? And so you got this situation where if you know, the cabal is never going to start addressing the fact of childhood trauma, Shaun. It's that's the recruiting pool for their military, you know, to acknowledge that you've got, you know, I said this in we were talking about, I was talking about this in a podcast with someone, and we were saying that almost in the military, you can be almost sociopathic. As sociopathic you can be for a little time in your life. I've seen times in my life where I was sociopathic just because I was naive, young, and delusional. And my self-narrative, I was justifying behavior off the back of my trauma, Shaun, going, well, look, it's all right for me to, you know, go out and be like this because what have those fucking people ever done to me, you know, and all this like straw man sort of rationale, right? So anyone can be a sociopath at different times in their sort of life. And we was having this conversation, and one of these sort of old timers, I think it was on LinkedIn or something, was like, what are you? So Chris, where's your empirical evidence to suggest that our military come from damaged background? I'm like, even if I fucking had it, I wouldn't be being told what to do by you, by you, mate. See, that's my trauma coming out now, Shaun. You know, fuck you. I'm a loving person, but I have a limit, you know. And so to answer your question, they're not going to do anything about it, mate, are they? They're not going to do anything about it. They will not acknowledge the thing behind the thing, which is what the American veterans in recovery refer to PTSD, that the reason we was damaged was in childhood and that we carried that forward unresolved into the military. You then pick up military experience, which almost like expand upon it. Like you might have been bullied, Shaun, you know, you might have been the biff in the troop, i.e. the one that really struggled with your admin or being on time or shooting your weapon, whatever it might be. You know, imagine having 30 blokes all swearing at you, threatening to beat the shit out of you. In one case, you know, you've seen in Full Metal Jacket with the chubby lad, what's his name? They hold him down on the bed and get bars of soap wrapped in a towel, and they do the guy over, and then they wonder why the guy goes absolutely banzai and you know, takes out the drill sergeant and then takes himself out. You know, it's you get these incidents whilst you're in the military that when you leave, they kind of then become the catalyst for your childhood trauma to come sort of, you know, shooting through, cascading off these incidents, sending your mind into all kind of horrible places. So yeah, so not a lot. It's a bit like saying, oh, try and think of I can't think of a parallel. It's a bit like saying these Formula One racing drivers, is it right that they're made to do this as children by a, you know, forceful father? I'm just giving a silly example. I'm not suggesting that's the case, but you know, and we all know that we'll know it's because they were childhood geniuses in a kart that they went on to win in Bahrain, isn't it? You know, they went on to stand on the podium, God knows how many times, Lewis Hamilton's. It's part of the experience. And I would say it's the same thing in the military. You've got to have that right mindset that you can appeal to the ego. And when you appeal to ego, get anyone to do anything. And that can be, you know, reward based, or in a case of possibly our politicians, blackmail based, isn't it? It's a fear based narrative. If you don't do what we say, we're going to say you sleep with rent boys. If you don't take us into an illegal invasion of a sovereign nation, we're going to tell them that you've been arrested twice for cottaging. You know, if you don't do what we say and, you know, sign this white paper, we're going to tell them what happens on your yacht when you take these youngsters from the orphanages out for a sail. Do you know what I mean, Shaun?
Yeah, I'm learning so much from you. And if the viewers who just tuned in, Chris is an ex-Royal Marine. He's speaking from experience. He's lived it. He's had vast life experience that he's drawing on, you know, for what he's imparting to us today. And I think that's fascinating to learn that the military, the government, doesn't want to address trauma because trauma is their biggest recruiter. I think that's what Chris said. And if they address the root cause, they would put them out of business. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if you look during when I say the medical nonsense, Shaun, it's because I don't want to get your channel into trouble. You know what I mean?
Course,
We're kind of limited, aren't we? On what? That's why I always tell my folks to go over to locals. But here's the thing: you could have banged your head against the wall. Do you remember when I formed the Global Veterans Alliance? And I got as many veterans together as we could. Don't wear your medals, fellas. That's just playing their game, the ego game. Put your lid on, you know, just to remind, so the public can see that respect that they have for our military. They've got something to latch on to, and wear your best suit or wear a shirt and tie, you know, if you've got one. And we went up to London. I don't feel that these marches really achieve as much as people want, but it does get people together, Shaun, and it gets people networking and talking. And off the back of it, there'll be people watching this now that know me from the work I did with the GVA, right? And here's the thing: we were a global organization. We called ourselves that because, you know, humble beginnings and all that. And we wanted to network. We were networking with people in Canada, people in America, veterans in New Zealand, all this kind of thing. How many, when you think that they reckon the veterans community in this country is it's certainly in the millions, Shaun, people with a military connection, right? How many people do you think we could get together? And you got to remember, they've locked down the country over something that I called a bogeyman, right? I say that because when the mainstream media come out with these narratives, I challenge anyone to go and prove them. Go and try and prove that there's a bogeyman that can jump from one part. Go and try and prove it. Don't take my, you know, I'm not trying to say anything. So go and try and prove it. If you're going to live your life shitting your pants and diving in the hedge every time someone sneezes, right? Go and try and prove why are you doing that? Where do you think your well-being comes from? What I would say, Shaun, you know, someone who's run across the Sahara Desert, run the length of the country and just rode across the Atlantic, as someone who makes sure my pH balance of my body, that's the acid and alkaline balance, because we're a living organism and every organism has one. I'd say it comes from your life choices. It's that fucking simple. I haven't been ill since 2003. Why? What is it that I do that other people don't? Why is it that I keep carbohydrates to a minimum in my diet? Carbohydrate being something that turns to glucose in the bloodstream. Glucose is just another form of sugar. Sugar, as we know from our teeth, highly acidic. So you've got a whole country who the majority of their plate when they sit down to eat is a poison, Shaun. It's toxic. It's acidic. And then when they get unwell, they don't recognize this. What they do is they blame you, Shaun. Oh, it's that. Yeah, I was with Attwood we shared a cab together, and then bloody he had it, and then bloody and you know, this cabal, mate, they're clever. They're clever. They co-opted this industry for the last 150 years. They've corrupted the science. They pay for the research that they want, and they don't pay for the research they don't want. So anyone who wants to make it in that area and live out their ego, because we we're trained to live out of our ego and be massively loved for the research we've done or the cure that we've found, right? Rather than doing the right thing, which is connect with spirit and fucking, you know, do what's right, not where the money is and where your silly fucking OBE is, or your, was it the other one, that the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize after signing off more drone strikes than any other president. So what, getting back to what I've totally lost. Getting old, Shaun.
I've got a question eating away at me. On this bus trip, you drove a bus from Mozambique to India. What was the craziest things that you saw?
Well, let's make it relevant, Shaun, because a significant percentage of this great nation, and I'm not being fucking nationalist now, I love all people, Shaun, and I welcome anyone. You know, in the Marines, you've got all ethnicities, and they're your fucking brothers. It's that simple. Are they going to stand up and scrap with you, or are they not? If the answer is yes, there's no prejudice. There's no, you know, certainly not on my part, right? But here's the thing: in order to win the spiritual battle, which is yourself, you have to live in a state of happiness and balance. You could say bliss, Shaun. You can't be getting triggered for your childhood trauma every single 5 minutes. What the cabal have done is they're practicing something called biological Leninism. It's so important that we understand this, even to understand the, you know, the things that we're discussing today. And it very, very quickly. So you had the Communist Manifesto, written by a very well-known Jewish person called Karl Marx. That wasn't his real name. He was called Mordecai. And he had this thing where take the power from the traditional positions, like your money families, like your, you know, your people that were set for life. They didn't need to rely on money. Therefore, they weren't corruptible, right? They would do the right thing and say, yeah, you can't pay me off. I'm a billionaire anyway. My castle's made to go. I'll do the best for the people. What they did is they took the power away from them and they put it with the public, didn't they? They put it with the masses. They then started to subject them to communist propaganda. So, for example, in China under Mao, you had something like the Great Leap Forward. Whenever under the agenda, they put great in front of something, Shaun, it's just cabal doublespeak. The stuff that Orwell warned us, it's doublespeak. It means it's the opposite of great, right? Great Britain means their plan. We all know it should be England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, shouldn't it? We lost our sovereignty and we become this homogenous lump. No disrespect to my English, you know, Welsh, Scottish, and Irish brothers and sisters, who I fucking love being a part of. But you know, they erased your identity there. They then slowly started to erase the identity of this lumped together mass into Europe, didn't they, Shaun? And it all kind of went a bit strange when Cameron offered us a referendum, which I think they never thought that they'd lose, and they fucking did. And now Starmer's in there getting us all back in. Liz Truss signed us up to PESCO, which is a European military initiative that are a significant decisions in our military now can be made from Brussels. Not a lot of people know this, right? So you got this Communist Manifesto and the Great Leap Forward in China. It wasn't a great leap forward. The same as the Great Rebuild or whatever fucking Cameron was coming up, the Great Society and all this. It means they're going to do the opposite. Under Mao, they decided that everyone would give up anything metal, like your pots and pans, your knives, your forks, your garden equipment, your farm. They thought that would be a good idea because it all went for the industrial effort, right? But then, of course, they all gave up their metal. They had to chop all the trees down to smelt the metal. So now you've got a country, no one's got anything that's metal, and you've got no trees. Hardly surprising, they ended up, I can't say this on your channel, but they were selling a form of chicken, Shaun. Let's just say it wasn't chicken, right? You know, under this manifesto, millions die, don't they? You know, millions die in famines and the like. So what happened under Leninism is they took the power from the people that should be doing the bollocks and they gave it to the masses. And the masses rose up and went, what? We've got power? Frick, we'll be loyal to you. Hell yeah. You know, do you see they got the loyalty of the people on board? Bio-Leninism is what we're seeing now. It takes it one step forward. Bio-Leninism is where you give power to oppressed minority or to minorities. Black Lives Matter, right? You get this, you know, the club, as we call them, funding these divisive initiatives with huge, you know, and these they're all a bit weird. Like the Just Stop Oil, none of it like makes sense. But sorry, I don't want to lose your audience any more than I'm probably already losing them. So bio-Leninism is like, let's recognize gay left-wing Rastafarian skydivers because they're like important. Yeah, Shaun, and you need to recognize them and I need to. And if we don't, we're going to get publicly shamed on Twitter. Right. Okay. So what is it today? Respect the gay left-wing Rastafarian skydivers. Right. Got it. Got it. Oh, tomorrow it's the Nazi coal mining fucking shit, you know, some other. And suddenly you've got all these people that have never been recognized standing up in their ego going, I'm loved, you know, and of course, what are they doing at the same time as gaining the allegiance of all these minority groups? But they're sowing people on the one thing that we need to get over: individual self, ego. We're one. Universe is one energy in it. Whether you like it or not, there's one energy within a system. It might change from form. When you understand there's one energy, then you understand that you are me, Shaun, and I am you. We're just life experiencing itself subjectively in these different bodies. Okay, this is why so in Scripture, where's the allegory? The allegory is when Jesus was crucified. Remember, Jesus is your Kundalini spirit, your chrism, your Christic. It fires off your serotonin. When you get life right, you fire off your serotonin and your DMT from your pituitary and your pineal, which creates a torus field, which then connects with the above, because you hear in esoterics, don't you? As above, so below. And your body, your endocrine glands suddenly start working as they should do as a human animal. And you're getting flooded with these lovely chemicals that make you feel you're in the promised land. You're living in paradise, right? Are they doing that? Are they saying, in order to access this and understand that the crucifixion of Christ was 5 wounds, hands, feet, and then the spear through the side from the Roman centurion? It's symbolizing transcending the material realm by understanding life is not just about what you see, hear, feel, smell, and touch. There's more to it. There's a different dimension. There's a higher realm that you need to understand and access if you want to find your true purpose in life. And when you do that, you transcend to heaven on earth, right? That's the allegory behind it. What are you doing when you brainwash people and they're thinking about, no, forget all of that. Forget this wonderful scripture, which has been written over thousands upon thousands of years to make you happy, no matter what language you speak, where you live, whatever time in history, you know? No, instead, what we're going to do is trap you in your ego. It's about your skin color. And you got to club together with your buddies and stand up for your skin color. And you guys, the gayers, you got to stand up for being different, and you can, and it's, what it's leading us to is the physical manifestation of I suppose, what in scripture was Sodom and Gomorrah. The end of time, Shaun. And I'm not talking like, doom and gloomy. What I mean is Rome didn't last forever, did it? In the end, in Rome, you had the emperor marrying his fucking horse. That's how fucking woke they got, Shaun. The rest of the knobheads were hanging around getting fed grapes by cherubs while lounging on a couch and wondering why, the Roman Empire is going to rat shit. Well, we got exactly the same thing now. We're a society where, when I go for a morning run, Shaun, and this is not a criticism of people, I get it. I'm a massively damaged person. That's why I've learned all this stuff that I'm sure to a lot of people is fucking weird nonsense. Like, I get it, and that's fine. I don't hate you for thinking that. I used to be like that, right? But when I go for my morning run, Shaun, you see the fear in people. They cannot say hello anymore. I'm running down the street. I got my head held high. Why? Because we're all born massive legends and we're living in paradise, and it's freaking great. I see someone coming down the pavement. I know beforehand what's going to happen. As I approach, they're going to put their head down, look away, or get their phone out. When you do say hello, it's like, huh? By the time they've acknowledged this weird thing that this other human being just like acknowledged me, what a fucking weirdo. This is the Sodom and Gomorrah that we're now in. Tell me how anything can good from letting the cabal traumatize everyone, Shaun, particularly the medical nonsense stuff. You've got people, you see the fear in one woman. I run past it every single day. I like to think deep down she appreciates how I say, morning, my love, or okay. She can't reply, Shaun. She's just like, every single day. The other day, someone said, morning, mate. Oh, fucking hell, I'll tell you what, it made my day, Shaun. I was on cloud 9 all day, Why? Because he's raising the energy, isn't he? He's doing what we should all do. We shouldn't go out the front door traumatized and full of anger, hate, bitterness, ego. But what does these initiatives like Black Lives Matter and the Rainbow Trans, what do? They're rewarding minority based on their ego and identity. And it's not your identity. Your identity is you're the all, the everything. You're the microcosm of the macrocosm. That's the as above, so below. You're the biggest, single, most incredible, legendary thing that ever existed. And what you're doing, you're choosing instead to identify as, hey, my name's Chris, yeah. Do you know I was in the Marines? I was in the Marines when I was 18 years old. I'm like so fucking important, yeah. I've even got a special hat that they gave me because I'm that important. I've got some fucking medals. Can I show you them? Right, I got this one for saving Private Ryan.
Chris, you said you were going to tie this into the bus trip.
Yes, so the bus trip. I can't remember oh yes, I was. Thank you for bringing me back to reality, Shaun. So believe me, I need good people around me. So the bus trip, I'm in tribal Pakistan. Pakistan is tribal. It's a tribal country. Of course, there's some very intellectual people there. There's money there. We met two distinct groups of people. We met one group who they'd made a bit of money. They came and grabbed us, right? Hey, guys, we saw the bus that came last year. That was our fellow volunteer workers who'd done the trip the year before. Can we treat you? You don't pay for anything whilst you're in Pakistan, right? They were great. I say they were great. They took us to their luxury townhouse, which was nice. It had a big fort, like a courtyard in the middle of the house, if that makes sense. You could see the sky. It was quite sort of plush. I'm stood there. My fellow driver, Dean, rest in peace. He's gone off to the toilet. The chap next to me says, "Chris, do you want to fire my weapon?" And he pulls out his pistol, right? I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll have some of that. So I'm like blat off a background in the back garden. As I hand it back to him, he went, "Yes, this is the one I used to kill my wife." I'm like, "Oh, why did you kill your wife?" He went, "Oh, she's thinking about divorcing me, you know." I'm not judging him, Shaun. That's their shit in their culture. It's ancient, you know. That's not my business. My business is when it's being imported here by design under biological Leninism, which is destroy community, the great leap backwards. Remember, it's Communist Manifesto. It's what the big club do best. I'm not saying, you know, we're under communist or this kind of, but 15-minute cities and digital credit and social credit and, you know, a containment grid, you can say. And I'm just saying that, you know, do you really want that next door to you, Shaun? Do you want your daughter, if you know, let's pretend you had a daughter and she's 13 and she's at that age, she wants to start showing her pins off for you know, to because she's living in her ego, as we all did at that age. And you got an next door neighbor that's looking out the window thinking, fucking slut, she deserves to be stoned to fucking death. That you know, if I wasn't, I'm not stereotyping here, Shaun. I lived with a Pakistani gentleman. He was fucking great, right? He used to put his vodka in the freezer Saturday night, get it out when it's like ice cold, sit down. By the time he drunk half a bottle, he'd be up doing the Pakistani dancing. Hey, hey, hey. He was just, he's lovely, but he did that, you know, you know, he's probably third generation or something, right? So that's one thing. So even before we got to Pakistan, we were in Iran, and we went to stay with an Iranian family. And Iran's quite a happening place, Shaun. It's not like, you probably, if you live in the UK or live in England, you probably think it's like a bit Stone Age and, you know, this, but it's not. It's actually, it's quite a, you know, their cities are, they're quite modern and everything. Sorry, I'm sounding a bit, when you're in like Pakistan, it's not like that. It's like your tea shops and like mechanics smashing the hell out of some car part in the middle of the street and all this kind of stuff. Shaun, have we lost you?
No, just battery change. Keep going.
Okay. So even before we got there, we got taken back with to a mechanic's family. He was a chap that had come and helped us fix the bus in Turkey, of all places. When we got to Iran, he took us to his family, and his father went. So he did that thing, Shaun, where I'm thinking I'm going to get drugs. And I'm like, yay. No, he took me up to his room, pulled open this drawer, lifted up his clothes. You've got to remember, this is under Islam. This is going to get you like stoned. Pulls out this magazine, and it was something like Good Housekeeping, or, you know, like the magazine you'd have in the dentist waiting room, right? And he's looking like this. He's looking like he's just about to reveal some kind of James Bond fucking secret to me. And he opens the page of this book, and there's a woman there, and she sat down with a mini skirt on, and it's, I don't know, she's selling fucking pot noodles or something. And you can just see a little bit of her pants through the way that the camera angle. And he's like, I was like, fuck. I'm not going to tell him what we got in our country, what you can buy on the top shelf. But it was an eye opener, Shaun. You know, imagine living in a place where you've never seen a woman in the flesh. They're covered from head to toe. What? Right? And this leads me on to Pakistan. So we parked the bus up one night on the side of the road, and there was we got out to go and smoke a joint or something, and we could hear all this commotion in the field, and you could hear music. So I said to Dean, come on, mate, let's go and investigate. Maybe it's a rave. It certainly was a rave, Shaun, but not the likes of which you and I would go to. We made it to the middle of this field. There's a crowd of about 300 people, all men. On a dais in the middle of the field, this raised platform, were two lady boys, right? Blokes dressed up as women. And they're doing all, and they had like a sort of crop top, a bit like your sort of belly dance, you know, that kind of costume on. But they're blokes, and they're doing all this, you know, this sort of Middle Eastern dancing. And it suddenly occurs to you, fucking hell, 300 of the villagers have rocked up to watch two blokes dressed as women dance. And as that realization came to us, I had my first grab in the nuts. And I was like, oh, fuck off, mate. The next thing, I'm fucking, my ass is getting grabbed. And I wouldn't be bothered if it were one or two people in a pub. I'd chuckle and walk away, Shaun. This is 300 fucking people in a field.
Oh my God.
And I was like, Dean, we need to fucking just get out of here now, mate. And we fortunately just made our way back to the bus, mate.
Wow.
Now, I got nothing against what they're doing. Fucking fine. If that's where your culture has led you. I don't agree with what you do with the small ones, you could say, obviously. But again, you know, not my partnership, not my trauma. However, when that's imported into my country at such a massive rate, as fast as they physically possibly can, people who have a very different understanding, people that have come up to me and said, Chris, is it true? If I come to England and I don't want to work, the government will pay me money? You know, this simplistic, what's it doing, Shaun? It's the same thing as biological Leninism, isn't it? It's fragmenting community. It's creating difference. It's creating a massive alliance of people that they don't give a shit about English culture, English history, bloody Wordsworth or Shakespeare or you know, going down the pub for a pint of ale. When old Starmer's lot stand up and say, look, we need a European army, we're going to pay you guys 10 quid a day, and they can send 8 quid of that back to people that are living in poverty. Whose laws are they going to obey? Are they going to obey moral law, Shaun? Or are they going to go for the dollar? Well, pretty obviously, if they've come across an ocean in a dinghy, the dollar is their motivation, isn't it? Improving the, you know, the quality of their lot. And like I say, mate, I've got nothing against anyone, Shaun. I know there's wonderful people of all ethnicities in this great nation, and I've been privileged to work with them and love them no different to anyone else. That's not the issue. The issue is this is a cabal, and I've got a fucking dog in the fight, mate. All right, they hurt someone that I fucking love. We all know how they hurt them, right? There's actually four people now, and I'll fucking call them out, you know? I'll call them out, their fucking Hollywood narrative, load of bollocks. Yeah. Did it answer your question?
Yeah, it certainly did, Chris. You've had some viewer questions come in. Did you have time to answer some viewer questions?
Oh, mate, why not? It's been a pleasure, Shaun.
All right. So Tashelle wants to know, what are the characteristics of recognizing an MK Ultra'd person, particularly one who would cause harm?
Well, again, I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that relates to any possible current situation, Shaun. However, I think half the reason I've just achieved everything I ever wanted in life, Shaun, is I'm open-minded. I accept stuff. You know, I accept the possibilities and the realms of everything, and then I try to be as realistic as I can without turning into a red pillock. You know, that's Robbie come up with that expression, red pill, red pillock. You know, people that everything's a conspiracy. I've had people try and tell me certain conspiracies, Shaun. I just say to them, if you believe that, just row across the Atlantic. Literally, if you believe what you believe, you're not going to survive for very long. You won't be able to navigate for a start. And when a ship comes the other way, it ain't going to be the way that you're telling me. So, you know, you got to add a degree of realism. But the whole thing with the MK is, so for people who don't know, it comes from the German word control, which is why it's spelt with a K. Mind control, MK Ultra, and it was a program in America in their intelligence apparatus that started round about the kind of 50s, when Operation Paperclip, when they employed a lot of the former German military and scientific apparatus. They co-opted it into America, didn't they? Like, for example, the Werner von Braun, who was one of the founders of NASA, and that's a whole nother like rabbit hole we can get into, Shaun, next time. But round about that time, you had this program called MK Ultra, in which the intended aim was to fragment someone's mind using extreme trauma, almost like torture techniques. And the symbol for it now in occult terms is always a smashed mirror. And that's because the smashed mirror represents the fragmented mind. And then when you've subjected someone to these deep levels of trauma, in the same way, when you hypnotize someone, you have to get their mind into a certain level of relaxation. It's said that you can then program that part of their mind with a separate identity. And a good way, or sort of maybe a way to explain this, if I'm not making sense, is it's like that thing when the most lovable person you know has a drink and then turns into an absolute fucking Tasmanian devil. And I'm not, it's not a good comparison because it's a completely different, like, chemical, you know, spiritual process going on there. But it is that thing, isn't it? That someone who's really, really nice can suddenly flip and be quite unpleasant. And that's what that was the program. They used mind in manipulating drugs. LSD was a part of it. Now, here's the thing. They wanted you to believe, and it's like I said earlier, it's alleged that when, say, an assassin is under MK Ultra, they program them with a trigger word, and when they hear that trigger word, they go into the role like in the Manchurian Candidate. The Manchurian Candidate, I can't remember the film exactly, but I think they got a load of volunteers from the military. They said, look, do you want to come on this experimental course? And then they mind control them. And you get given a trigger word. And when you hear that trigger word, you go into your beta programming and you become this alternative personality. And so if they program that beta personality with, you are going to take out the president, then that's allegedly what they do. And like I say, I did read somewhere that when someone's under that spell and in that beta programming, they give off a certain smell. Their body physically, there's some biochemistry thing they're going on, and they always claim amnesia. You know, I don't remember what sort of happened. So that was said to be the program. Then the CIA wanted you to believe that they shelved it, that they came forward into the 60s. They completely shelved it, which I don't know about you, Shaun, but I just don't think that's very realistic. If you had a program where you could control, for example, I mean, it might be a world leader or a TV personality or whoever it might be, why would you just shelve it? That seems too sort of humanitarian. So yeah, rather sort of dubious. And then when you look into it, I might be getting me two sort of conspiracies here mixed up, but I think David Cameron's grandfather was involved. A chap called, I can't remember the name now. It's one of those ones I sort of researched a long time back, and I just remember the, you know, vagaries of it, if that's indeed even a word. It just all gets a bit bizarre, Shaun, you know? So the short answer to the question is you wouldn't know, but you'd see the behavior. The behavior would tend to be obviously completely out of normal for the person. And again, I'm not relating this to Liverpool, not at all, Shaun, right? You know, I'm not even going to like comment on that. I think that's a bit dodgy territory for both of us. But and there's clips for anyone that wants to learn more. If you type in MK Ultra glitches into some of the video platforms, sometimes